Close your eyes and let your mind drift into the vast unknown. Tonight, we're going to explore the deepest mysteries of existence itself. The theories that explain how everything came to be, how reality works, and why anything exists at all. These aren't just abstract ideas floating in academic journals. These are the fundamental truths that govern every breath you take, every thought you think, every moment you experience. Let yourself sink deeper into comfort as we begin this journey through the greatest discoveries in human history. The weight of your body melting into the surface beneath you, your breathing becoming slower and more rhythmic, as we explore ideas so profound, they'll reshape how you see everything around you. We start with a theory so controversial, it still sparks debates in classrooms and courtrooms around the world. For most of human history, people believed life was fixed, unchanging, designed with purpose. Then came an idea that rewrote everything we thought we knew about ourselves and our place in the universe. Evolution by natural selection. The concept is elegantly simple yet groundbreaking. Organisms with traits that help them survive and reproduce are more likely to pass those traits on. Over time, tiny changes accumulate, leading to entirely new species, not guided by any higher force, just the raw mechanics of survival. Close your eyes. Breathe. Feel how, even in silence, something pulses, a structure, a rhythm, a form. Though you can't see it, everything that exists, from the atoms in your body to the orbits of planets, seems to follow a shared score. We live in a universe that is not only vast, but surprisingly ordered. And while existence can sometimes feel chaotic, there's an underlying pattern connecting the large with the small, the invisible with the tangible. That pattern speaks an ancient, pure, and seemingly universal language, mathematics. It's not just that we use math to describe the world, it's that the world itself seems to be made of math. When Galileo said that the universe is written in the language of mathematics, he wasn't being poetic. He meant it literally. He believed that reality itself, the movement of stars, the fall of objects, the glow of light, was encoded, as if the cosmos were a text waiting to be read. And everything we've discovered since has only strengthened that idea. The golden ratio, the number phi, appears in spiral galaxies, hurricanes, tree branches, and the shell of the Nautilus. It's the same ratio artists and architects have used for centuries to create beauty. But what does it mean that the same number repeats itself in both the heavens and in human design? Is beauty a mathematical property? Or is it that the human mind, born from the same universe, recognizes itself in those patterns? Think of the number pi, an irrational constant that never ends, never repeats, and yet exists in every circle, every curve, every rotational movement you can imagine. From the spin of an electron to the swirl of galaxies. Why? Why does the universe need constants like this to function? Why isn't it more arbitrary, more chaotic, more unpredictable? And why do these constants seem so precise, so tuned, as if necessary for someone to be here observing them? Einstein didn't believe in randomness. God does not play dice, he said. For him, the elegance of equations wasn't just useful. It was a clue, a sign that the universe has structure, that order exists beneath what looks like noise. In fact, many physicists today still believe that when a theory is mathematically elegant, it's probably closer to the truth. Physicist Max Tegmark even proposes that the universe is a mathematical structure, not that it behaves according to math, but that it literally is math. That everything we see, touch, feel, and think is just an intricate dynamic equation in motion. In this view, you're not just flesh and bone. You are a moving, breathing expression of numerical relationships, and everything you perceive is the result of interactions between mathematical structures at the most fundamental level. So were mathematics invented or discovered? It's one of the most profound questions in the philosophy of science. If math was invented, how is it that equations created in the human mind can predict the behavior of particles in distant galaxies? How can we create formulas that perfectly describe things we've never seen? But if math was discovered, then it already exists, out there, waiting to be seen. This would mean that reality doesn't just follow laws, it is law, is logic, is relationship. That long before humans arrived, math existed as the invisible skeleton of the cosmos. And yet, math also has its own limits. In the 1930s, Kurt Gödel showed that every mathematical system complex enough to be useful contains truths that cannot be proven within the system itself, as if the universe was designed to never be fully known, as if there is always something just beyond reach, an edge of mystery that cannot be eliminated. But maybe that's not a flaw. Maybe it's a feature. Maybe the language of the universe isn't meant to be fully solved, but heard. Like a symphony you don't decode, but feel. Because while an equation can describe the vibration of a string, it cannot explain why that vibration moves you to tears. The universe sings in hidden scales. Its frequencies repeat in music, art, architecture, biology. Harmony is not just aesthetic, it's cosmic. It's the echo of order. And if that's true, then maybe what we call mind is also a mathematical structure, a complex information pattern that, like the universe, has its own rhythm. Maybe our emotions, our thoughts, our sense of self, are vibrations in a network of logic we don't fully understand. Poetry, music, art, these could be translations of that deeper code, ways for humans to interpret the mathematics of existence through feeling instead of formula. Because in the end, beauty might be the brain recognizing its origin in the mathematical perfection of the universe. Now breathe again. Look around. What you see isn't just matter. It's proportion, ratio, balance. What you touch, what you hear, even your own heartbeat, it all speaks, it all expresses, it all follows a hidden order. You are not separate from that language. You are made of it. Your thoughts, your cells, your movements are not accidents. They're expressions of a structure that has been writing itself for billions of years. The universe doesn't just have form. It has grammar. It has rhythm. It has elegance. And you are a beautiful sentence in that secret language. You wake up. You reach for your phone. You decide what to wear, what to eat, what to say. It all feels like choice, like a stream of decisions flowing from some inner place of freedom. But beneath that sense of agency, science tells a stranger story. One where the choice might be an afterthought, and the feeling of control just a comforting illusion. In laboratory settings, neuroscientists have watched as the brain prepares for action seconds before a person becomes aware of making a decision. A flicker in the motor cortex, a shift in electrical potential. It's as if the decision has already been made, and your consciousness just catches up in time to claim it. Does that mean free will doesn't exist? Are we passengers in a train already set on its track, narrating a journey we didn't truly choose? The question cuts deep. Free will is the cornerstone of responsibility, morality, identity. Without it, who are we? Just flesh and neurons, obeying chemistry and physics. Just echoes of causes we'll never fully trace. Or is there something else, something not yet measured, that gives us the power to step off the track, to rewrite the next line in the script? Some thinkers argue that what we call free will is simply complexity misunderstood. The brain is a dynamic system, far too intricate to predict in real time. Billions of neurons, shaped by genetics, experience, environment, and memory, interacting in patterns too chaotic to trace. From the outside, it looks deterministic. From the inside, it feels like choice. But feeling isn't proof. And yet, there's something about that feeling that refuses to be dismissed. Maybe free will doesn't live in the moment of decision, but in the capacity to reflect, to imagine alternatives, to change direction. Like a river that doesn't choose where it begins, but still carves its own path through the land. Maybe we don't control the conditions that shaped us, but we can respond to them. We can shift the angle. We can steer. Even if the initial current comes from somewhere unseen, you didn't choose your DNA, you didn't choose your first language, your family, your country, the shape of your body, the wiring of your brain. All these variables, preloaded. But within them, something moves, something adjusts, a kind of freedom that isn't absolute, but emergent, like flight emerging from feathers and physics, even though no single feather can fly. Some scientists propose a model of bounded free will, the idea that within constraints, consciousness can guide outcomes. You might not have chosen the storm, but you can choose how to sail through it. You might not decide which thoughts arise, but you can decide which ones to follow. In this model, will is not a command center, it's a filter, a director of attention, a witness who shapes the narrative by what they focus on. Others go further, suggesting that consciousness could influence physical processes in ways we don't yet understand. That attention itself may alter the brain. That choosing where to place awareness can rewire circuits, redirect habits, even shift personality over time. Neuroplasticity shows us this. Meditation shows us this. The brain changes in response to what the mind consistently attends to. That's not full freedom, but it's not nothing. And then there's the quantum question. At the smallest scales of reality, determinism breaks down. Particles don't behave like clockwork. They behave like probability clouds. They exist in multiple states at once until observed. Some theorists wonder, could consciousness itself play a role in collapsing these probabilities into outcomes? Could will, at the quantum level, nudge reality in one direction or another? If so, then free will may not be an illusion. It may be a subtle force, less like a hammer, more like a tuning fork, resonating within a web of cause and effect. Not breaking the rules of physics, but participating in the unfolding of possibility. You are not a ghost trapped in a machine. You are the machine discovering its ghost, a living system aware of itself, a pattern that watches its own formation. Still, the paradox remains. If everything is connected, if your thoughts arise from 1,000 causes you didn't choose, then who is choosing now? Maybe the answer lies not in what you are, but in how you are. Free will may not be a power, it may be a practice, a process of noticing, pausing, choosing again, not once, but over and over across a lifetime of habits and reactions. You can't always control the first impulse, but you can shape the next action. You can become aware, and awareness changes the game, because awareness lets you question the story. It lets you interrupt the automatic. It lets you ask, do I want to keep doing this? Is this belief mine or inherited? Is this reaction serving me or just repeating something old? In those questions, space opens. In that space, choice lives. This is not the freedom to do anything. It's the freedom to become someone new, to respond with wisdom instead of instinct, to build a self out of countless micro-decisions, shaped not by the past, but by the future you want to create. And here's the final paradox. The more aware you become of your limits, the freer you are within them. Like a dancer confined to a stage, but using every inch of it with grace and intention. The beauty is not in breaking the boundaries. It's in expressing yourself fully within them. So maybe free will isn't about control. Maybe it's about participation. Maybe the goal is not to dominate the river, but to ride it consciously, to add your rhythm to its flow. Maybe free will is not a binary, but a spectrum. Not a switch you flip, but a skill you practice. And the more you practice it, the more real it becomes. You are not a static self. You are a process. You are choice, becoming conscious of itself. You are cause and effect, learning to dance. You are the question of freedom, asked from inside the system that seeks the answer. And that might be freedom enough. You were taught to believe that your mind lives inside your head, that your thoughts are enclosed within the soft folds of your brain, sealed behind bone and blood. But what if that boundary is an illusion? What if the mind isn't something that resides in the brain, but something that extends far beyond it? This is the idea behind the theory of the extended mind. a concept that challenges centuries of philosophy and neuroscience. It suggests that your mind doesn't stop at your skin. It stretches out into your tools, your surroundings, your relationships. It lives in your notebook, your phone, your rituals, in the space between your fingers and the pen, between your gaze and the screen, between your thoughts and the world that shapes them. When you solve a problem with pencil and paper, where is the thinking happening? Is it just in your brain, or is it also in the way your hand draws symbols, in the physical feedback of ink on a page? When you rely on your smartphone to remember birthdays, contacts, directions, have you outsourced part of your memory? If that's true, then your device isn't just a tool, it's part of your mind. A prosthetic organ of cognition. This isn't science fiction, it's cognitive science. Philosophers Andy Clark and David Chalmers proposed that if a process outside the brain functions as reliably as memory or reasoning inside the brain, then it should be considered part of the mind. In other words, your mind is not in your brain. It's wherever thinking happens. And thinking happens in more places than you might imagine. Your body, for instance, is not just a vehicle for the brain. It's a thinking system of its own. Your posture, your heartbeat, your breathing all send signals to the brain that influence emotion, attention, decision-making. You don't just think with your head, you think with your spine, with your stomach, with your skin. The mind is not a single organ, it's a distributed process. It arises in the flow of information through systems, neural, social, technological. It emerges from your dance with the world, from the feedback loops between perception and action, between inner state and outer environment. You change your environment, and it changes you back. A constant, invisible dialogue between what's inside and what's outside. Even space matters. Studies show that the shape of a room, the texture of walls, the amount of natural light all influence how people think. Creativity rises in open spaces. Focus deepens in quiet, enclosed ones. The room you're in doesn't just host your thoughts, it shapes their contours. The architecture of your surroundings becomes part of your mental architecture. The mind molds itself to its environment, like water filling a glass. And then there are other minds. When you talk to someone, your brain waves can synchronize. Your nervous system can mirror theirs. A yawn, a sigh, a subtle change in tone can ripple between two people like a wave across the sea. You've felt this. Those moments when a conversation flows so naturally, it feels like a single mind split across two bodies. Those moments are not metaphors. They're measurable. They're real. We are social creatures not just emotionally, but cognitively. We think with each other. Language itself is a technology of thought, a system that lets you outsource abstract ideas, memories, feelings into a shared space. A thought doesn't feel fully formed until it's said aloud. A problem doesn't become solvable until it's written down. The act of expressing thought is also the act of completing it. Even culture becomes part of the extended mind. The concepts you can think about are shaped by the language you speak, the symbols you use, the metaphors you inherit. An English speaker and a Mandarin speaker don't just use different words. They perceive time differently, space differently, even causality differently. Your mental world is built in part by the invisible structures of culture. This has profound implications for identity. Because if the mind extends beyond the brain, then you are not confined to your body. You are spread out. You are in your tools, your spaces, your networks, your rituals. You are a process, not a package. A dynamic system shaped by what surrounds you. Who you are is not a fixed thing, but a pattern of relationships, always changing, always in motion. And this opens a new kind of responsibility. Because what you surround yourself with shapes who you become, the conversations you have, the tools you use, the spaces you live in, the people you spend time with. These aren't just background noise, they're extensions of your thinking. Choose them well, and you extend yourself wisely. Surround yourself with chaos, and you invite it into your mind. You are not alone in your skull. Your mind is a web, a network of signals stretching across brain and body, across pages and screens, across eye contact and silence and song. You are a node in something larger, a thinking being woven into a larger thinking system. And maybe that's what consciousness really is. Not a light trapped inside, but a glow spreading across space and time. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts, remember, you don't have to hold them all inside. You can write them, speak them, share them, scatter them like seeds into the world and let the world help you think. Your mind is not a cage. It's a conversation. You are not a brain trapped in a body. You are a body dancing through space, extending your thoughts like branches into the world around you. Your tools are not separate. Your spaces are not neutral. Your connections are not optional. You are more than you think, quite literally. Close your eyes and drift forward, not into next week, not into next year, but into time itself. Not human time, cosmic time, the kind that stretches beyond memory, beyond civilization, beyond biology. The kind of time that erases mountains, reshapes galaxies, and swallows stars whole. We've spent much of our story looking back toward the origins of life, the birth of stars, the emergence of consciousness. But now we look ahead, into deep time, into the uncharted future where humanity may vanish, but time continues. If the universe were a book, we've only read the first few pages. The rest stretches ahead for billions of years. And while we are small, while our lives are brief, we are still part of that unfolding. The arrow of time continues. The clock does not stop. So what happens next? In about 500 million years, Earth will become uninhabitable, not because of war or pollution, but because the sun itself will grow brighter, hotter, more relentless. The oceans will evaporate. The atmosphere will collapse. Life, as we know it, will be gone. Earth, the cradle of all our stories, will be sterilized by its own parent star. And yet, the sun will just be entering middle age. Eventually, 5 billion years from now, the sun will swell into a red giant. It will engulf Mercury, Venus, maybe even Earth. Then it will shed its outer layers and shrink into a white dwarf, a silent ember in the dark. Around it may orbit relics of civilizations long gone. Satellites, debris, dust. Forgotten echoes of a species that once wondered where it came from. But the universe will go on. Other stars will be born. Other planets will form. And maybe, somewhere, life will begin again. Maybe it already has. Maybe we are not the first spark of awareness, nor the last. But even stars have lifespans. Over trillions of years, they will die too. The universe will grow colder, dimmer, lonelier. Galaxies will fade. Black holes will consume what remains. And then one day, so far into the future that language breaks trying to describe it, the last light will flicker out. A time of endless night. No stars, no heat, no life. Just cold. Just silence. Just space. This is called the heat death of the universe. A state where all energy is evenly spread, where nothing can happen, where the cosmos reaches maximum entropy and time, in a meaningful sense, stops. No events, no memory, no change. And yet, even here, even in this imagined silence, the story may not be over. Some scientists propose that black holes may evaporate over unimaginably long time spans, releasing faint radiation called Hawking radiation. Others speculate that quantum fluctuations in empty space might spark new universes, new big bangs, a kind of cosmic rebirth, a phoenix rising from the ashes not of fire, but of nothing, in the deepest future, beyond heat, beyond time, beyond the death of everything we know. The laws of physics might still contain the seeds of novelty, of surprise, of something wholly new. But what about us? Are we just a brief spark, a flicker of consciousness destined to vanish without trace? Or is there a path forward, across the void, beyond extinction, into continuity. Some thinkers imagine that consciousness, like life, might adapt, that in the far future, intelligence could decouple from biology, minds uploaded to machines, civilizations encoded into matter itself, not bodies, but information patterns, living in orbit around stars, drawing power from light. Then, when stars fail, perhaps surviving near black holes, extracting energy from their spin, or even migrating to artificial substrates in colder realms, slower, quieter, but still awake. Others imagine consciousness merging with the universe itself. That intelligence may not survive in the cosmos, but as the cosmos. A shift so radical it can barely be described. No more skulls, no more senses, just awareness, woven into the very fabric of space and time. A final act of integration, the observer and the observed becoming indistinguishable. But this is speculation, and speculation is not prophecy. We do not know what comes next, but we can ask, how do we live knowing what we know? How do we carry on, knowing our sun will die, knowing even the stars fade? Perhaps the answer is not in survival, but in significance. Maybe we matter not because we last forever, but because we are now. Because we can ask these questions, because we are capable of wonder, because we are temporary and we know it, and still choose to create, to love, to build, to hope. That may be the real miracle. Not that we might persist into eternity, but that we are aware in the face of it, that we look into the void and do not look away, that we write poems, build telescopes, raise children, and plant trees we'll never see grow. That in the brief window between birth and oblivion, we choose meaning. In that sense, the end of the universe is not a tragedy. It is a frame, a reminder, a cosmic memento mori that sharpens our focus on what matters most. You are not here forever, but you are here now. You are part of the story, and though your chapter may be short, it touches the pages before and after you. You are not alone in time. You are part of deep time, a ripple in the ocean of becoming. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it's enough to be the universe, briefly awake, writing its own future in the ink of light. We speak of love as if it were something small, a feeling, a chemical, a momentary glitch in our biology. We reduce it to hormones, to neural pathways, to evolutionary mechanisms built to ensure reproduction. But what if love is not just a function of life, but a reflection of something far deeper? What if love is not just a human emotion, but a fundamental pattern woven into the structure of the universe itself? Look closely, and you'll see it everywhere. Connection, attraction, union, resonance. Particles entangle, atoms bond, cells cooperate. Galaxies cluster, stars form from clouds of gas drawn together by gravity's silent pull. Even the universe itself began as a single point, everything bound in perfect unity before expansion tore it apart. The story of existence is the story of separation and return, of fragments longing to rejoin what they once were. In physics, gravity is the force that draws things together. It doesn't push, it pulls. Without it, there would be no stars, no planets, no life. But perhaps gravity is more than a physical force. Perhaps it's a metaphor for something deeper, a yearning at the heart of matter, a longing to connect, a tendency toward togetherness, toward wholeness. In biology, love begins as attachment, an infant reaching for warmth, a body seeking safety in the presence of another. This instinct is older than words, older than thought. It's a map etched into the nervous system, and yet it grows, it evolves, it becomes complex, romantic, platonic, familial, universal. It transcends its initial function and becomes something more, a capacity not just to survive, but to care. Why would evolution favor such depth? Why would the universe produce creatures capable of empathy, sacrifice, devotion, awe? There are easier ways to replicate genes. There are simpler ways to stay alive. And yet, we love. Fiercely, desperately, irrationally. We write songs about it, die for it, build worlds around it. Maybe love is not just useful, maybe it's true. A glimpse into a deeper order. A clue that reality itself is relational. That existence is not built from isolated things, but from connections between them. In quantum physics, entangled particles remain linked no matter how far apart they are. A change in one affects the other instantly, even across galaxies. This violates everything we thought we knew about locality. But it reminds us of something love has always whispered. That closeness is not measured in space. That connection defies logic. That what's truly bonded is never really separate. In ecology, nothing lives in isolation. Every organism depends on a web of interactions. Air, water, fungi, insects, microbes. You are not a singular being. You are a symphony of life. Trillions of cells and bacteria cooperating in temporary harmony. Your survival is a collective effort. Your body is a community. Your mind is a chorus. To be alive is to be in relationship. And in consciousness, love emerges as the most transcendent state. Beyond fear, beyond ego, beyond survival. It dissolves the illusion of separation. It makes another's well-being feel like your own. It moves us to act not for reward, but for something higher, something sacred. When you love, you are no longer just a body, a brain, a set of impulses. You are a bridge, a field, a force. Some spiritual traditions teach that love is not an emotion, but the fabric of all being, that everything arises from it and returns to it. That to love is to remember where you came from. Science may not use those words, but the patterns it reveals often echo the same truth. That connection is more fundamental than separation. That cooperation is more powerful than competition. That the universe does not just expand, but embraces. And when you look inward, you feel it. Not as a theory, but as a certainty. The way your chest opens when you see someone you love. The way your whole body softens in the presence of trust. The way pain melts when it's witnessed with compassion. These are not mere sensations, they are signals, signs, reminders that we are made for connection. Even memory responds to love. The strongest memories are not the most logical, but the most emotional, the most intimate, the ones filled with warmth, with presence, with resonance. The moments when you were seen, when you were held, when you were known. In those moments, time bends, boundaries dissolve. You feel infinite. You feel home. And perhaps that's what love truly is. Not a chemical event, but a portal. A glimpse into the unity that underlies all form. A brief remembering that beneath the skin, beneath the stories, beneath the separateness, we are all made of the same light. The same atoms, the same origin, the same longing to return. This doesn't make love easy. Love breaks, love aches, love hurts. But even in its pain, it reveals something profound, that we are vulnerable because we are open, that the risk of loss is the price of connection, and that this risk is worth it, every time, because in loving, we expand. We transcend ourselves. We become more than individuals. We become reflections of the whole. So maybe love isn't a soft thing. Maybe it's the most real thing. The core algorithm of the cosmos. The gravity of consciousness. The force that pulls particles and people into meaning. The reason the universe creates stars. And art. And hands that reach across silence. You don't have to believe in magic to believe in love. Just look around. Every cell is evidence. Every tree, every tide, every tear, every sacrifice, every embrace. Love is not an exception to the rules. It is the rule, the hidden law beneath the noise. And if that's true, if love is not just something we feel, but something we are, then everything changes. You are not alone. You are not separate. You are not incidental. You are love, becoming aware of itself. You think of memory as a record, as if the past were stored somewhere in your brain, untouched, waiting to be retrieved. But that's not how it works. Memory isn't a filing cabinet, it's a canvas. And every time you remember, you're painting over it again, not restoring the original. but rewriting it, changing it, blending it with who you are now, with how you feel now, with what you believe now. The past, it turns out, is not fixed, it's fluid. And every act of remembering is also an act of becoming. Your brain is not preserving reality, it's constructing it. Every time you recall a moment, your neurons refire, your synapses reconnect, and the memory reshapes itself. A detail shifts, a face blurs, a mood alters the tone. You remember differently because you are different. Memory is not a time machine, it's a mirror, and the reflection changes as you do. Neuroscientists call this reconsolidation. Each time you access a memory, it becomes unstable for a while, open to change, vulnerable to influence. Then it settles back down, restored, but not as it was. Like a book that rewrites itself every time you read it. The more you revisit it, the more it evolves. The more real it feels, the less reliable it becomes. And here's the strange part. You never notice. The memory feels true, emotionally true, viscerally true. You can see it in your mind's eye, hear the voice, smell the air. But truth and vividness are not the same. You can vividly remember things that never happened, and forget things that did. Your memory doesn't prioritize accuracy. It prioritizes meaning. It keeps what feels important, and it edits what doesn't, not to deceive you, but to serve you, to help you survive, to help you understand. This is not a flaw, it's a feature, because what you remember shapes who you are, and who you are in turn shapes what you remember. It's a loop, a feedback system, identity and memory feeding each other in real time. You think of yourself as a continuous self, moving through time. But that continuity is built on a story, a narrative your brain writes from fragments. You are not the same person you were 10 years ago, not biologically, not psychologically. But the illusion of self persists because memory stitches the pieces together. It fills in the gaps, it smooths the edges. Even when you has changed entirely. So what happens when you change your memories? What happens when you revisit a painful moment? Not just to relive it, but to reinterpret it. To see it through older eyes, wiser eyes, more compassionate eyes. What happens when you decide to emphasize a different part of the story? Not to lie to yourself, but to choose what version of the past helps you move forward. Because every memory is a choice. Every recollection is an opportunity. You can't change what happened, but you can change what it means. And in doing so, you change the version of yourself who carries it. Therapists know this, so do storytellers, and so do survivors. Healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about giving it a new shape, reframing the trauma, finding coherence where there was once only chaos. You can't undo the pain, but you can integrate it. You can give it context. You can let it become part of your growth, instead of your prison. Memory is plastic, malleable, alive. It flows through time with you. It responds to love, to grief, to insight, to intention. It's not a dead archive. It's a living map, and you are the cartographer. Even false memories, the ones we swear are true, remind us of how creative the brain really is. Experiments have shown that simply changing a word in a question can implant entirely new details in someone's memory. People can come to believe they got lost in a mall as a child, or saw a non-existent car crash, or committed acts they never did. All because the mind is suggestible, because it wants to make sense, because it fills in blanks with stories that feel right. This can be dangerous, but it can also be liberating. It means the past isn't a sentence, it's a draft. It means you can rewrite the meaning of your memories, even if you can't rewrite the events themselves. You can choose which memories to nurture, which ones to soften, which ones to carry forward. You can build a self not from what happened, but from what you choose to make of it. You are not bound to your past like a prisoner to a cell. You are its editor, its interpreter, its alchemist. And what about the memories stored in the body? The ones that don't come as images or words, but as tension in the shoulders, as nausea, as sudden tears. The body remembers what the mind forgets. Trauma lodges itself in muscle, in breath, in reflex. But even these memories can be changed. Through movement, through touch, through awareness, through breath. You are not just a brain recalling events. You are an embodied being reliving experiences, and you can re-embody them differently. And then memory softens. The loop rewrites. The past finds peace. Even the memories you haven't made yet, those matter too, because you're building them right now. This moment, as you read these words, is becoming a memory. What will it mean to you tomorrow? A passing thought? A turning point? A sentence that stayed? You won't remember everything, but something will remain. Some echo, some image, some shift. And when you return to it, next week, next year, in some distant chapter of your life, you'll reshape it again. Add meaning, add feeling, add yourself. Because that's what memory is. Not a fixed record of what happened, but a living dialogue between who you were and who you are becoming. You are not your memories, but you are the one who remembers. And that perhaps is where the real freedom lies. There is something strange about the fact that you can reflect on your own reflection, that you can think about thinking, that you can watch your own mind like a mirror looking into another mirror, seeing itself repeat into infinity. This loop, this self-awareness, is more than just a trick of cognition. It may be the deepest clue to the nature of reality itself. You are matter that woke up. A pattern of atoms, once part of stars and soil and fire, that has somehow become conscious. And that question does not echo into emptiness. It creates ripples. It bends the pattern back toward its source. You are not just living in reality. You are part of the mechanism through which reality observes itself. This is the recursive nature of consciousness, the way awareness loops back, not just to perceive the world, but to perceive itself perceiving. And that looping may be the key to everything. In mathematics, recursion is when a function refers to itself. In art, it's a picture within a picture. In life, it's the feeling of déjà vu, the sense that you've seen this moment before, that the present is echoing something deeper. Reality itself may be recursive. Patterns built on patterns. Rules applied to the outcomes of previous rules. A universe that unfolds not in a straight line, but in spirals, reflections, mirrors of mirrors. Consciousness seems to behave this way too. You think. Then you think about thinking. Then you wonder why you thought what you thought. Layer upon layer. Awareness of awareness of awareness. This self-reflective quality of mind is so familiar we overlook how strange it is. Rocks don't reflect. Trees don't reflect. Even most animals don't reflect on the fact that they are reflecting. But you do. Right now. You are listening to yourself listen. You are watching yourself think. And that recursive loop might be what makes you, you. But it's not just humans who loop. The universe does too. Galaxies form from gravity pulling in on itself. Life arises when matter begins to replicate patterns of matter. Evolution is recursive. Every change builds upon previous changes. Culture evolves the same way. Ideas mutate, recombine, self-reference, echo. And consciousness. Consciousness may simply be recursion made deep enough to become self-sustaining. A loop so intricate, it becomes its own experience. Even physics, at its edges, hints at recursion. The holographic principle suggests that everything inside a volume of space can be described by information on its boundary, as if reality isn't what it appears to be, but a projection generated by a deeper layer, a loop between surface and depth, observer and observed. And quantum mechanics, the strangest mirror of all, tells us that what we observe is influenced by our act of observing, that the particle changes when we look, that possibility collapses into actuality through interaction, that the reality you see depends on how you measure it. In this way, the universe isn't just being watched, it's participating in the watching, it's recursive, it folds experience into its own unfolding. Which raises the question, where does the observer end and the observed begin? Maybe the distinction is false. Maybe there is no hard boundary between subject and object. between inner and outer, between mind and matter. Maybe they are two expressions of the same underlying reality, looping into and through each other. The mystics said this long ago, that self and world are not separate, that the knower and the known arise together, that to know the world is to know the self, and to know the self is to realize there is no self apart from the world. Now, science begins to whisper the same thing. Cognitive scientists point out that your sense of I is not constant. It's a construction, a recursive process your brain performs to keep experience coherent. A story told over and over again until it feels like a solid thing. But if you look closely, the narrator is always changing. The story edits itself. The author forgets the words, and yet the story goes on. In this way, you are not a static being. You are a verb, a process, a movement, a recursive loop dancing through time. And here's the twist. As you reflect on yourself, you change. The act of watching yourself creates a new self. Each layer of awareness shapes the next. Like feedback in a sound system, the signal amplifies itself until it becomes something more than the sum of its parts. That's why healing works, why meditation works, why insight works. Because when you become aware of a pattern, the pattern shifts. When you look into the loop bends. When you recognize yourself as the author, the story rewrites. Reality does the same. What you observe, you participate in. What you reflect on, you transform. The feedback never stops. And in that never-ending loop, something beautiful emerges. Responsibility. You are not a bystander. You are a co-creator, a note in the symphony, a curve in the spiral. And maybe that's the point of recursion, not just to see itself, but to evolve, to iterate, to refine. The universe looks at itself, learns from itself, changes itself, over and over, becoming something new each time. And where does it lead? No one knows. The loop doesn't close. It continues. You are not the final version of yourself. This is not the final version of reality. We are all mid-process, mid-loop, part of the unfolding recursion that reality performs upon itself. So breathe, reflect, notice. Watch the mirror bend toward awareness. You are not outside the universe looking in. You are the universe, looking at itself from the inside. You are the echo and the source, the reflection and the light, the dancer and the dance. And as you become more conscious of yourself, the universe becomes more conscious too. Close your eyes and picture something that doesn't exist, a city in the clouds, a version of you who never gave up, a doorway to another universe. You see it, don't you? You feel it, though it's nowhere outside of you. That vision, that sensation, that inner cinema unfolding across your mind. What is it, really? Science says it's imagination, but that word barely captures what it means. Because imagination is not just a fantasy generator. It is the engine of possibility, the root of all transformation, the bridge between what is and what could be. Every invention, every work of art, every revolution, every healing begins as imagination. A thought unbound by present conditions, a glimpse of something more. Before the wheel turned, someone imagined rolling. Before the rocket launched, someone imagined flying. Before love spoke, someone imagined being seen. And here's the astonishing part. Your brain treats imagined experiences almost identically to real ones. When you picture running, your motor cortex activates. When you visualize a conversation, your language centers light up. When you imagine biting into a lemon, your mouth waters. The body responds as if it's really happening. This isn't a glitch. It's a feature. The brain evolved not just to react to reality, but to simulate it, to test possibilities, to rehearse outcomes, to run mental experiments in a virtual space. Imagination is a survival tool. But it's also something greater, a creative act. Because if the mind cannot distinguish clearly between what's real and what's vividly imagined, then imagination becomes a tool for building reality. Athletes use it to train. Artists use it to shape. Scientists use it to hypothesize. Leaders use it to inspire. Children use it to learn. And every single person uses it, whether they realize it or not, to write the script of who they believe they are. Every fear you rehearse in your head, your mind records as experience. Every hopeful future you visualize, your nervous system begins to prepare for. You can condition your body into stress by imagining catastrophe. You can also condition it into calm or strength or joy by imagining safety, success, or peace. The stories you tell yourself are not entertainment, they are neurochemical instructions. This means your imagination is not just creative. It is causal. It has effects. It rewires your brain. It changes your biochemistry. It primes your decisions. And those decisions shape your life. You're not living in a neutral reality. You're living in the version of reality that your mind, over time, learns to expect. This is not magical thinking. It's neuroscience. And it's power. When you imagine a different version of yourself, more kind, more capable, more free, you begin to create neural pathways to support that version. You start to notice opportunities you once ignored. You become sensitive to patterns that reinforce your new story. You train your brain to believe, and what the brain believes, the body follows. Imagination is how we prototype ourselves, but it goes deeper still. Some philosophers and physicists wonder, what if all of reality is imagination? Not yours alone, but consciousness itself, imagining forms into being. What if the physical world is the stabilization of patterns born from infinite possibility? We already know that particles don't take definite form until measured. That observation shapes outcome, that what we expect to see influences what we actually see. Consciousness seems to participate in reality, not just watching but selecting, filtering, choosing. If that's true, then perhaps imagination is not a shadow of reality. It's a co-author, a collaborator, a sculptor working alongside the laws of physics. Perhaps imagination doesn't escape the real world. Perhaps it feeds it. From this view, imagination becomes sacred, not a distraction, but a duty. Not escapism, but expansion. Not fantasy, but frontier. Because everything begins inside. Empathy begins by imagining another's pain. Justice begins by imagining a better system. Love begins by imagining what it feels like to be truly seen. Peace begins by imagining what it means to stop. And when enough people imagine the same future, it becomes possible. Ideas ripple through culture, through biology, through matter itself. One person imagines, and 1,000 lives change. But imagination is not neutral. It obeys your attention. It amplifies what you feed it. If you imagine fear often enough, the world begins to shrink. If you imagine failure, your decisions begin to match. If you imagine yourself unworthy, you begin to live in a story that enforces it. That's the danger and the invitation, because you can also imagine healing, wholeness, courage, connection. You can imagine yourself forgiving what once seemed unforgivable. You can imagine beauty in a broken world. You can imagine being the one who helps someone else imagine again. And maybe, in doing so, you wake up a sleeping part of the world. Because this world, for all its solidity, was shaped by minds like yours. Every city, every law, every system, every ritual began as a thought. Nothing we live in now existed before someone imagined it. And everything we will one day become begins the same way. The chair you sit in, the road outside, the music playing in the distance, all imagined first. So don't underestimate the scenes in your mind. Don't discard your visions as idle daydreams. They are sketches for a future not yet built. They are architecture in waiting. You are not just living inside reality. You are reality imagining itself forward. So the next time you doubt yourself, pause, breathe, close your eyes. Picture something better, not as a way to escape the world, but as a way to meet it halfway. Because somewhere, deep in the code of existence, imagination may be the language reality listens to most. Picture the first creatures crawling from ancient seas, their descendants slowly adapting to new environments. Some developing wings to soar through prehistoric skies, others growing larger brains to navigate complex social structures, each generation slightly different from the last, shaped by the relentless pressure of an ever-changing world. Darwin's insight wasn't just about biology. It was about time itself, stretching far beyond human comprehension. Millions of years of gradual change creating the incredible diversity of life we see today. From the smallest bacteria to the largest whales, all connected through an unbroken chain of ancestry reaching back to the very origins of life itself. The reaction was explosive. Religious groups rejected it. Some scientists doubted whether natural selection alone could explain the complexity of an eye, a wing, a human brain. How could random mutations and survival pressures create something as intricate as consciousness itself? The debates raged for decades, and in some places, they continue today. But evolution didn't just challenge scientific ideas, it challenged humanity's place in the world. If we weren't created in our current form, what did that mean for our significance? Were we just another species shaped by time and adaptation? The questions cut to the very core of human identity. As you let these thoughts settle into your mind, feel the profound weight of deep time. Billions of years of life experimenting, adapting, evolving. The same forces that shaped ancient trilobites and towering dinosaurs continue to work today, invisibly sculpting every living thing on Earth. Yet evolution has become more than just a theory about the past. It shapes our understanding of genetics, medicine, even artificial intelligence. Computer programs now evolve solutions to complex problems. Medical researchers track how viruses adapt to treatments. We've learned to harness the very mechanisms that created us. The implications stretch into the future as well. Are we still evolving? Some scientists believe we are, though perhaps in ways our ancestors never could have imagined. Not just biological evolution, but technological and cultural evolution happening at unprecedented speeds. Consider how human societies have changed in just the past few centuries. From scattered agricultural communities to a globally connected civilization. From traveling by foot to exploring space. From communicating through speech to sharing thoughts instantaneously across continents. Is this rapid change another form of evolution, operating on timescales we can actually observe? Let your mind wander through the tree of life, its branches extending in every direction. Every species alive today represents an unbroken chain of survival, stretching back to the earliest moments when life first sparked into existence. You are part of that chain, carrying within your cells the molecular memory of billions of years of adaptation and change. The beauty of evolution lies not in its simplicity, but in its ability to create infinite complexity from simple rules, like a vast algorithm running across geological time, testing countless variations, keeping what works, discarding what doesn't. The result is a world of stunning diversity and intricate interdependence. As your breathing deepens and your thoughts become more fluid, imagine the countless generations that came before you, each one surviving long enough to pass on their genes, their accumulated wisdom, their adaptations to an ever-changing world. You are the current expression of that ancient process, shaped by forces that predate human civilization by eons. The theory of evolution reminds us that change is the only constant. What seems permanent and fixed is actually in constant flux, transforming so slowly we rarely notice. Mountains rise and fall, continents drift, species emerge and vanish. Even the stars themselves are born, live, and die. According to natural processes we're only beginning to understand. Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, you're participating in one of life's most ancient rhythms. Rest and renewal. The daily cycle that has sustained living things since the earliest organisms learned to synchronize with the rotation of the Earth. Your body following patterns established billions of years ago, connecting you to the deepest roots of existence itself. Evolution continues its work even as you sleep, cells dividing and repairing. immune systems adapting to new challenges, dreams consolidating memories and experiences, perhaps playing their own role in the ongoing process of adaptation and change. The story of evolution is ultimately a story about time, change, and the incredible resilience of life itself. From the simplest chemical reactions in ancient pools to the complex ecosystems of today, the same fundamental process continues: testing, adapting, surviving, thriving. Let these thoughts carry you deeper into rest, knowing that you are part of something vast and ancient and ongoing. As you drift deeper into the rhythm of scientific wonder, let your mind wander through another landscape of mysteries that challenge everything we think we know. The universe continues to whisper its secrets, each revelation more profound than the last. Consider the nature of time itself. We experience it as a river flowing in one direction, carrying us from past to future with unwavering certainty. Yet physics suggests something far stranger. Time might not be the fundamental force we imagine, but rather an emergent property arising from deeper quantum interactions. Some theories propose that time crystallizes from the entanglement of particles, like ice forming from water. If this is true, then our experience of temporal flow could be an illusion, a construction of consciousness trying to make sense of a reality that exists outside of time altogether. The implications ripple through everything we believe about cause and effect, about memory and anticipation, about the very nature of existence itself. Perhaps what we call the present moment is simply the intersection of infinite timeless possibilities, a brief flicker of awareness in an ocean of eternal now. And what of consciousness itself, that most intimate mystery? Despite centuries of investigation, we still cannot explain how electrical signals in the brain give rise to the rich tapestry of subjective experience. The hard problem of consciousness remains unsolved, perhaps unsolvable within our current frameworks of understanding. We can map every neuron, trace every chemical pathway, yet the emergence of qualia, those irreducible qualities of experience, remains as mysterious as ever. Some researchers propose that consciousness might be a fundamental property of the universe, like mass or charge, woven into the very fabric of reality. In this view, awareness doesn't emerge from complexity, but has always existed, becoming more organized and sophisticated as systems evolve. The universe itself might be conscious, experiencing itself through every sentient being, every moment of awareness a window through which the cosmos observes its own unfolding. This perspective transforms our understanding of identity and isolation. If consciousness is universal, then the boundaries between self and other become fluid, temporary arrangements in the larger symphony of awareness. Your thoughts, your experiences, your dreams become notes in an infinite composition, each consciousness a unique instrument in the cosmic orchestra. The mystery deepens when we consider the measurement problem in quantum mechanics. Reality seems to exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed, at which point it collapses into a single, definite outcome. But what constitutes observation? Is consciousness required to collapse the wave function, or is any interaction sufficient? If consciousness plays a fundamental role in determining reality, then the boundary between mind and matter dissolves entirely. Perhaps the universe is not made of things, but of relationships, patterns of information that exist in the interplay between observer and observed. In this view, solid matter becomes a persistent illusion, a stable pattern in the quantum foam that underlies all existence. The chair you sit in, the ground beneath your feet, even your own body become waves in an ocean of possibility, temporarily coherent structures in the endless dance of quantum fields. This recognition brings both vertigo and liberation. If reality is more fluid than we imagined, then change becomes not just possible, but inevitable. The stories we tell ourselves about limitation and impossibility lose their grip when we realize that the universe is far more malleable than our everyday experience suggests. Consider how this applies to the nature of space itself. What we call empty vacuum is actually teeming with activity, virtual particles popping in and out of existence. quantum fields fluctuating at scales too small to perceive. Space is not empty but full, not passive but dynamic, not separate from matter but intimately connected to it. The distinction between something and nothing becomes meaningless when we realize that nothing is actually something in disguise. These quantum fluctuations may be responsible for the very structure of the universe, providing the seeds from which galaxies grew, the tiny irregularities that allowed matter to clump together into the cosmic web we observe today. From the smallest possible scales to the largest structures in the cosmos, the same quantum principles apply, suggesting a deep unity underlying apparent diversity. This unity extends to the forces that govern reality. What appear to be separate phenomena, gravity, electromagnetism, the nuclear forces, may be different aspects of a single underlying principle. The search for a theory of everything continues, driven by the intuition that beneath the complexity of physics lies elegant simplicity, a master equation that describes all possible realities. But perhaps the most profound mystery is why anything exists at all. Why is there something rather than nothing? This question touches the very foundations of existence, challenging our assumptions about necessity and contingency. Perhaps the universe exists because it must, because nothing is actually impossible. Or perhaps existence is the default state, and it would take special effort to maintain nothingness. Some theories suggest that our universe is just one bubble in an infinite multiverse, each bubble with its own laws of physics, its own history, its own possibilities. In this vast landscape of realities, every conceivable universe exists somewhere, every possible story plays out. The universe where you made different choices, where history unfolded differently, where the laws of nature themselves are alien to our experience. If the multiverse is real, then you are not alone. Somewhere across the infinite expanse of realities, other versions of you are living different lives, making different decisions, experiencing different possibilities. The you that became an artist instead of a scientist, the you that moved to a different city, the you that was born in a different time or place. Each version equally real, equally valid, equally you. This recognition can be both comforting and overwhelming. It means that every path not taken still exists somewhere. Every opportunity missed is seized by another version of yourself. But it also means that your choices here and now matter deeply, because this reality, this universe, this moment, is the one you're experiencing. Even if infinite alternatives exist, this particular thread of existence is uniquely yours. As you contemplate these possibilities, feel how they shift your relationship to time and space, to identity and possibility. The universe reveals itself as far stranger and more wonderful than our everyday experience suggests. We are not separate from this cosmic mystery, but embedded within it, expressions of its deepest patterns, temporary organizations of its infinite creativity. Let these thoughts carry you deeper into rest, into the space between waking and sleeping where boundaries dissolve and possibilities multiply. In that liminal realm, the mysteries of existence become not problems to be solved, but symphonies to be experienced. The universe dreams through you, and you dream with the universe. Each breath a small miracle, each heartbeat a celebration of the impossible fact of existence itself. The scientific quest continues, each discovery revealing new depths of mystery, new layers of wonder. But perhaps the greatest discovery is that we are not outside observers of cosmic processes, but participants in them. Not separate from the universe, but expressions of its deepest nature. In recognizing this, science becomes not just a way of knowing, but a way of being, a practice of conscious participation in the ongoing creation of reality. Sleep now, cradled in the vastness of space and time, knowing that you are both insignificant and essential, temporary and eternal, human and cosmic. The universe might be a projection from a two-dimensional surface, much like how a hologram creates the illusion of three-dimensional depth from a flat image. This isn't science fiction speculation. It's a serious theoretical framework emerging from our deepest understanding of black holes and the fundamental nature of reality itself. When physicists first discovered that information falling into a black hole appears to be encoded on its surface rather than within its volume, they stumbled upon something profound. The mathematics suggested that everything we experience as three-dimensional space might actually be information stored on a distant boundary, projected inward to create the illusion of depth and substance. Picture reality as an infinitely sophisticated movie theater where you're not just watching the film, you are part of it, unable to distinguish between the projection and what feels like solid, tangible existence. Every particle, every force, every interaction could be the result of information processing on this cosmic screen, far removed from the reality you think you inhabit. This holographic principle doesn't just apply to black holes. Some physicists propose that our entire universe operates this way, with all the complexity of stars, planets, and consciousness itself emerging from calculations performed on a two-dimensional surface at the edge of observable space. The three dimensions you move through, the time that flows around you, even your thoughts and memories, all of it could be elaborate projections from this distant boundary. What makes this particularly unsettling is that you would never know. The projection is so complete, so seamless, that the illusion becomes indistinguishable from reality. You feel the weight of objects, the passage of time, the solid ground beneath your feet. But these sensations might be nothing more than information patterns, no more substantial than shadows dancing on a wall. If this is true, then every scientific discovery, every equation, every measurement we make is really just mapping the rules of the projection system, rather than uncovering fundamental truths about physical reality. We're like characters in a video game trying to understand their world by examining the pixels on the screen, never realizing that the true complexity lies in the code running somewhere else entirely. The holographic universe suggests that space itself might be an emergent property, something that appears real but is actually constructed from more fundamental processes we can't directly perceive. Distance, volume, even the separation between objects could be illusions created by the way information is organized and processed on this cosmic boundary. This theory emerges naturally from string theory and quantum gravity, representing our best attempt to reconcile the quantum world with Einstein's relativity. But it forces us to confront an uncomfortable possibility that everything we consider real, permanent, and substantial might be nothing more than an incredibly sophisticated simulation running on the universe's edge. Yet perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the holographic principle is that it doesn't diminish the reality of your experience. Even if you are a projection, your thoughts, emotions, and perceptions remain genuine. The love you feel, the beauty you witness, the connections you make, these emerge from the information patterns, whether they're processed in 3 dimensions or projected from 2. The holographic universe challenges our most basic assumptions about existence, while leaving the meaning and value of that existence intact. If reality is a projection, then you are both the observer and the observed, both the image and the screen, participating in a cosmic display of information so elegant and complete that it creates the very experience of being human. Imagine drifting deeper now, past the edges of what feels solid, into territories where the very notion of existence becomes fluid. You've journeyed through evolution's patient unfolding, through the mysterious chambers of consciousness, through quantum realms that refuse to behave as expected. Now, let us venture into spaces that challenge not just what you know, but what you think it means to know anything at all. Picture the universe as a vast library, its shelves stretching beyond sight. Each book contains a different version of your life. Some volumes are thin, barely a chapter long, ending abruptly with a missed turn or sudden fall. Others are thick and winding, detailing adventures you never remember having. Lives where you became a pilot, never moved from your hometown, or married someone you only briefly knew. But somewhere in that infinite library sits a book that never ends, A version of you who, against every odd, survives every disease, dodges every accident, avoids every fatal coincidence. Not through magic, but through statistical possibility. This isn't fantasy. This emerges from quantum theory's most radical implication, that the universe constantly splits, not metaphorically but literally, into new realities with every possible outcome. In at least one of those branches, you simply never die. Not because you're invincible, but because you're the version that, at every critical juncture, makes it through. The pilot isn't you in the traditional sense. You're the passenger, riding the only timeline where you continue to wake up. This phenomenon, called quantum immortality, suggests something profound about the nature of experience itself. Your consciousness can only persist in branches where you remain alive. Every version where you perish becomes inaccessible to you, dead branches in the tree of possibility. So from your subjective perspective, you experience only the paths where you survive. You don't experience your own death. You experience only continuation, however improbable. But consider the implications. That narrow path where you always live becomes increasingly strange as time passes. Everything around you changes. People age, friends pass, accidents happen. In most branches, you die as expected. But you, this persistent thread of awareness, continue only through rare corridors where fate consistently bends in your favor. Eventually, you find yourself in a reality where everyone you knew is gone, where luck defines your existence so thoroughly it begins to feel unreal. Meanwhile, your memory itself drifts through reconstruction. Every time you recall an event, you're not retrieving a file. You're rebuilding it, using fragments, emotions, associations. Each recollection subtly alters what you remember. What you recall from childhood feels vivid, but it's a collage of guesses and updates. The emotional version of who you are, carried in your mind, may not match what mirrors show you. Sometimes you glimpse yourself and pause, uncertain. The lighting seems wrong, the expression unfamiliar. That momentary disconnect reveals how unstable your self-image truly is. You're not made of the matter you think you are. Every atom in your body, every cell, exists in constant flux. The elements that compose you were forged in the hearts of dying stars, scattered across space, eventually coalescing into planets, into life, into the temporary arrangement you call yourself. But even this atomic foundation is mostly emptiness. If an atom were the size of a cathedral, its nucleus would be a marble in the center. The rest is void. And yet your world feels full, dense, tangible. This illusion of solidity serves survival, not truth. Your brain constructs experience from electrical signals, weaving together sensation, memory, and expectation into something that feels coherent. But you never see raw reality. You perceive a rendering, a simulation built from fragments and stitched together so seamlessly, it fools you into thinking it's real. Every color, every sound, every texture is your nervous system's interpretation of energy patterns. Red doesn't exist in strawberries. There are no colors in the external world, only electromagnetic waves of different frequencies. Your eyes absorb them. Your brain assigns labels, and suddenly you live in a painted universe. Yet beneath this painted world, space itself writhes with invisible activity. What you call empty space teems with quantum fluctuations, virtual particles popping in and out of existence. The vacuum isn't vacant, but alive with energy, like the surface of an ocean that appears calm from a distance but seethes with currents underneath. Dark matter, making up most of the universe's mass, remains completely invisible to you. Dark energy, even more mysterious, pushes space itself apart at an accelerating rate. You exist in the tiny sliver of reality that interacts with light, floating on an ocean of forces you cannot detect. And consciousness, that intimate awareness through which you experience all of this, remains science's deepest mystery. We can map brain activity, track neural patterns, even predict some decisions seconds before you become aware of making them. But no one knows why any of this produces the felt sense of being you. The hard problem of consciousness asks not how the brain processes information, but why there's something it feels like to be a thinking being. Why aren't you just a biological robot processing inputs and outputs without any inner experience? Some theories suggest consciousness isn't produced by the brain at all, but is a fundamental property of the universe, like space and time. Perhaps awareness permeates everything, and complex brains simply concentrated into the rich experience you know. Others propose that consciousness emerges from quantum effects in microscopic structures within brain cells, bridging the gap between mind and the strange realm of quantum mechanics. But whether consciousness is fundamental or emergent, universal or rare, it remains yours to inhabit. And through this awareness, you participate in reality's unfolding. The observer effect in quantum mechanics suggests that measurement itself shapes what becomes real. Perhaps consciousness doesn't just witness the universe, but helps determine its form. Every time you pay attention, you collapse possibilities into actualities. Every moment of awareness contributes to the cosmic conversation between potential and manifestation. So as you rest here, drifting between waking and sleeping, recognize that you are not separate from these vast forces. You are their expression. The atoms in your body remember the fires of ancient stars. The water in your cells carries echoes of primordial oceans. The electrical patterns in your brain participate in the same quantum dance that underlies all existence. You are not a viewer of reality, but a verb within it, a temporary organization of matter and energy that has somehow learned to wonder about itself. In this space between thoughts, between one breath and the next, you touch something infinite, not because you will live forever in any single timeline, but because the pattern that is you participates in something larger than any individual existence. Whether through quantum immortality, through the recycling of atoms across cosmic time, or through the simple fact that awareness itself seems woven into the fabric of what is, you are both fleeting and eternal. Both a whisper and a song in the universe's long conversation with itself. Rest now in this paradox. You are simultaneously the most temporary arrangement of matter and the most profound mystery science has yet encountered. The universe has been preparing for billions of years to have this exact thought, this precise moment of awareness, this particular quality of wonder. The body knows things the mind hasn't yet discovered. It speaks in whispers, trembles, and sudden stillness. Your heart quickens before you understand why. Your skin prickles in empty rooms. Your stomach drops at news that hasn't reached your ears. This isn't mysticism. It's biology operating at frequencies below conscious awareness, reading the world through channels older than language, older than thought. Consider the peculiar nature of intuition, that sudden knowing that arrives without reasoning, without evidence, without explanation. Science has long dismissed it as wishful thinking or pattern recognition in disguise. But recent research suggests something more mysterious. The vagus nerve, that wandering highway between brain and body, carries information both ways. Your gut doesn't just receive commands from your head, it sends them. The enteric nervous system, that mesh of neurons lining your digestive tract, processes information independently, responding to chemical signatures, electromagnetic fields, and subtle environmental shifts your conscious mind never detects. There's something unsettling about realizing you're not fully in control of your own responses, that your body is constantly making decisions, preparing reactions, shifting chemistry based on data you'll never consciously access. Your pupils dilate before you recognize attraction. Your breathing changes before you notice the scent. Your posture shifts before you identify the threat. The body is always one step ahead, living in a slightly different timeline than the mind, responding to a world that's richer, more layered, more alive than conscious perception allows. This creates a strange doubling of experience. There's the story you tell yourself about what's happening, and there's the story your body tells itself. Sometimes they align, often they don't. You say you're fine while your shoulders climb toward your ears. You claim to be confident while your voice wavers. You insist you're not afraid while your hands tremble. The body keeps its own records, maintains its own truth, speaks its own language of tension and release, of opening and closing, of yes and no. The phenomenon extends beyond individual bodies into collective spaces. Walk into a room where an argument has just ended. You feel it before anyone speaks. The air itself seems charged, heavy, weighting. Groups generate their own atmospheric pressure, their own weather systems of emotion and intention. Bodies synchronize breathing rates, heart rhythms, even brain waves when in close proximity. Mirror neurons fire not just when you act, but when you observe others acting, creating a constant feedback loop of shared sensation and response. This is where the boundaries between self and other begin to blur. Your nervous system is not contained within your skin. It reaches out, connects, resonates with other nervous systems in ways that bypass conscious awareness. You catch moods like you catch colds. You feel the stress of others in your own muscles. You know things about people that they haven't told you, not through psychic powers, but through the constant exchange of microsignals, chemical traces, electromagnetic fields that bodies broadcast and receive without permission. The implications ripple outward. If consciousness is broader than we thought, if awareness extends beyond the skull into the world of sensation and resonance, then what we call reality is far more participatory than the usual models suggest. You're not observing the world from behind your eyes. You're embedded in it, breathing with it, vibrating in harmony or discord with everything around you. The boundary between inner and outer dissolves into something more fluid, more permeable. Dreams take on new significance in this framework. Not just random neural firing or psychological processing, but the body's way of exploring connections that daytime logic dismisses. In sleep, when the conscious mind steps back, the body continues its conversations with the world. It sorts through the day's accumulations of sensation, emotion, and subtle information, weaving together patterns that make sense at levels below language. The strange logic of dreams isn't illogical at all. It's the logic of embodied knowing, of wisdom that lives in muscle and bone and blood. Memory, too, becomes something different. Not just cognitive storage, but cellular archive. Trauma researchers have discovered that experiences are recorded not just in neural networks, but in fascial tissue, in the very structure of muscle and connective tissue. The body remembers what the mind forgets, holds what the mind can't process, carries forward what consciousness isn't ready to integrate. This is why healing often involves movement, touch, breath work. The body needs to tell its story, to release what it has been holding, to update its records of safety and threat. The phenomenon of presence takes on new meaning. When someone is truly present, you feel it not just mentally, but physically. Their attention is palpable, their awareness tangible. Presence isn't just a psychological state. It's an energetic one, a particular quality of attention that the body recognizes and responds to. Children and animals are especially sensitive to this, responding to what people are feeling rather than what they're saying, reading the authentic signals beneath the performed ones. This embodied awareness extends into the realm of creativity and innovation. Many artists, scientists, and inventors report that their best ideas come not from thinking but from a kind of listening, a receptivity to something emerging from beyond conscious intention. The body, with its older, deeper intelligence, often knows before the mind catches up. Ideas arrive as sensations first, as movements, as feelings that gradually crystallize into thoughts and concepts. The relationship between breath and consciousness reveals another layer of this mystery. Breath is the bridge between voluntary and involuntary, between conscious and unconscious. You can control it, but you don't have to. It responds to emotion, to thought, to environment in ways that bypass conscious decision. Different breathing patterns access different states of consciousness, different qualities of awareness. Ancient traditions knew this. Modern science is rediscovering it. The simple act of breathing differently can alter brain chemistry, shift nervous system states, open doors to experiences that thinking alone cannot access. What emerges from all this is a picture of human beings as far more complex, sensitive, and interconnected than the standard materialist model suggests. You're not just a brain driving a body through a mechanical world. You're an aware, responsive, constantly adapting system embedded in a web of relationship and resonance that extends far beyond what consciousness can track. The body knows things the mind is still learning. It feels connections the brain hasn't mapped. It responds to information the intellect hasn't processed. This doesn't diminish the importance of rational thought or scientific inquiry. It expands them. It suggests that knowledge comes through multiple channels, that understanding involves not just analysis but embodied experience, that wisdom emerges from the integration of mind and body, thinking and feeling, knowing and being. The mystery isn't solved by explaining it away. It's deepened by recognizing how much more there is to explore, how much more we are than we previously imagined. In the end, the body's secret knowledge isn't really secret at all. It's simply operating at frequencies we're not trained to notice, communicating in languages we've forgotten how to speak. Part 6. The Recursive Dance of Reality. In the strange theater of existence where consciousness meets cosmos, we find ourselves suspended between knowing and unknowing, between the solid certainty of our everyday experience and the fluid mystery that quantum mechanics whispers about reality. We have journeyed through the landscapes of evolution and time, through the holographic projections of what we call the universe. And now we arrive at perhaps the most intimate mystery of all, the recursive nature of awareness itself, the way reality seems to fold back upon itself like an infinite origami of meaning and perception. Consider for a moment the peculiar fact that you are a pattern of atoms that has somehow learned to contemplate its own existence. You are matter that has awakened to itself, a temporary configuration of star stuff that has developed the capacity to wonder about its origins, to question its nature, to experience beauty and meaning and the profound vertigo of self-reflection. This is not merely poetic language. It is the literal truth of what you are. Every carbon atom in your body was forged in the nuclear furnace of a dying star. Every breath you take connects you to the vast atmospheric ocean that has been circulating around this planet for billions of years. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe becoming aware of itself. But here is where the recursion begins, where the strange loops of reality start to reveal themselves. Because as you contemplate your place in this cosmic story, you realize that your very capacity for contemplation is itself part of the story. Your consciousness is not standing outside reality, observing it objectively. Your consciousness is reality observing itself subjectively. And this observation, this act of awareness, somehow changes what is being observed. Not in the crude sense that thinking positive thoughts will manifest parking spaces, but in the deeper sense that consciousness and cosmos are not two separate things that interact, but rather two aspects of a single, seamless, endlessly creative process. The mystics and sages have pointed to this truth for millennia, but now even our most rigorous scientific theories are beginning to echo their insights. Quantum mechanics suggests that the act of observation plays a fundamental role in the collapse of possibility into actuality. The holographic principle implies that all the information needed to describe a volume of space can be encoded on its boundary, as if reality were a kind of cosmic projection. And the recursive nature of complex systems shows us that simple rules, when applied repeatedly, can give rise to patterns of stunning beauty and infinite complexity. But let us step back from the abstractions and feel into the lived reality of this recursion. Right now, as you read these words, your brain is performing an extraordinary feat of pattern recognition and meaning-making. Photons of light are striking your retina, triggering cascades of electrochemical activity that somehow give rise to the experience of understanding. But where, exactly, does this understanding occur? Neuroscience can map the neural correlates of consciousness, can show us which brain regions light up when you have a particular thought or feeling, but the actual experience of understanding remains mysteriously elusive. It's as if consciousness were the one thing that cannot be fully captured by the very consciousness that seeks to understand it. This is the recursive loop at the heart of existence. Consciousness trying to understand consciousness, awareness becoming aware of awareness, the observer observing the observer. And in this loop, something magical happens. The boundaries between knower and known begin to blur. The distinction between self and world becomes fluid. You begin to sense that what you call your consciousness might not be as private and isolated as you once believed. Indigenous wisdom traditions have long understood this fluidity of boundaries. They speak of the web of life, of the interconnectedness of all beings, of the earth as a living system of which we are temporary, but integral expressions. Modern ecology confirms this intuition, showing us how every organism exists in a complex web of relationships, how the health of any part depends on the health of the whole. But the recursion goes deeper still. Because as we begin to understand our interconnectedness, this understanding itself becomes part of the web. Our consciousness of the web changes the web. Our awareness of our interdependence deepens our interdependence. This is why the shift from a mechanistic to a participatory understanding of reality is so profound. When we see the universe as a machine, we imagine ourselves as separate from it, either as its creators or as insignificant cogs within it. But when we recognize the universe as a living, creative, recursive system, we realize that we are not separate from it at all. We are the universe in the process of awakening to itself. Our questions are the universe questioning itself. Our sense of wonder is the universe wondering at itself. Our love is the universe loving itself. And this recognition changes everything. It changes how we relate to our bodies, recognizing them not as mere vehicles for consciousness, but as expressions of the cosmic creativity that has been unfolding for billions of years. It changes how we relate to our emotions, understanding them not as private psychological events, but as ways the universe experiences and expresses itself through us. It changes how we relate to our thoughts, seeing them not as products of an isolated brain, but as movements in the vast field of consciousness that permeates all of existence. But perhaps most importantly, this understanding transforms how we relate to mystery itself. Instead of seeing mystery as a problem to be solved, we begin to appreciate it as the very source of creativity and meaning. The mystery is not something we stand outside of, trying to penetrate with our rational minds. We are expressions of the mystery, temporary crystallizations of the unknowable creative force that manifests as galaxies and quarks, as consciousness and love, as art and music, and the profound silence that underlies all sound. This is the deepest teaching of the recursive nature of reality, that the seeker and the sought are one, that the question and the questioner arise together, that consciousness and cosmos are dance partners in an eternal ballet of becoming. We are not trying to solve the puzzle of existence from the outside. We are the puzzle solving itself from the inside. We are the question the universe is asking about itself, and we are the answer it is discovering through us. In this light, every moment of awareness becomes sacred, every breath becomes a prayer, every heartbeat becomes a note in the cosmic symphony. We begin to understand that enlightenment is not some distant goal to be achieved, but the very ground of our being, temporarily obscured by the illusion of separation, but always available in the simple recognition of what we already are. This is the gift of the recursive dance, the recognition that we are not observers of the cosmic story, but characters within it, not audiences to the play of existence, but actors upon its stage. And as we embody this understanding more fully, as we align ourselves more completely with the creative intelligence that flows through all things, we become more effective agents of healing and transformation in a world that desperately needs both. The recursion continues, spiraling ever deeper into mystery, ever deeper into meaning, ever deeper into the love that is the very fabric of existence itself. Your memories are rewritten every time you recall them. Picture your mind as an ancient library where every book rewrites itself each time you open it. Not subtly, not gradually, but fundamentally. Each memory you treasure, each defining moment that shapes who you are, changes slightly every time you revisit it. Your brain isn't a recording device preserving perfect snapshots of the past. It's an artist, constantly painting over old canvases, blending what was with what you needed to have been. This isn't poetic metaphor. This is the unsettling reality of how memory actually works. Every time you remember your first kiss, your graduation day, the moment you learned devastating news, your brain reconstructs that experience from fragments. And in doing so, it subtly alters it. Details shift. Emotions are recolored by your current state. The story changes to fit who you've become. Scientists call this reconsolidation, and it reveals something profound about human experience. You are not the keeper of your past. You are its constant editor. Elizabeth Loftus demonstrated this with chilling clarity. She could implant false memories so convincing that people would swear they remembered events that never happened. A simple change in how a question was asked could transform someone's recollection of a car accident. The memory felt real because to your brain, it was real. Your most vivid memories, the ones you're absolutely certain about, may be the most unreliable. The more emotionally charged an experience, the more often you replay it. And the more you replay it, the more opportunities your brain has to edit it. Each retelling, each reminiscence, each moment of nostalgic reflection reshapes what actually happened. Consider the implications. Your identity is built on stories you tell yourself about your past, but those stories are fiction posing as fact. The version of you that overcame that challenge, that survived that trauma, that achieved that success, is partially imagined. Your brain has been ghostwriting your autobiography, and you've been accepting it as documentary truth. This isn't failure. It's function. Your mind prioritizes meaning over accuracy, healing over historical precision. It softens traumatic edges, enhances moments of triumph, and creates narrative coherence from the chaos of lived experience. Memory serves the present, not the past. It shapes who you need to be, not who you were. But this fluidity of memory points to something deeper. If your past is constantly being rewritten, then perhaps identity itself is more malleable than you think. You are not trapped by what happened to you. You are not bound by the stories you've been telling yourself. Each time you remember, you have the opportunity to remember differently, not to lie, but to choose which aspects of truth to emphasize. The boundaries between fact and interpretation, between what happened and what you make it mean, are thinner than you imagine. Your memories are collaborative works between your past self who experienced something and your present self who needs that experience to mean something specific. This is why therapy works, why journaling transforms, why time heals. Not because the past changes, but because your relationship to the past is constantly evolving. Each time you revisit a memory, you can choose to highlight different details, find different meanings, extract different lessons. Your memories are not museums preserving artifacts of who you were. They are living documents, constantly being updated to serve who you're becoming. The past isn't behind you, fixed and immutable. It's beside you, changing as you change, growing as you grow. And perhaps this is memory's greatest gift. It doesn't trap you in what was. It frees you to become what could be. Because if your memories are stories you tell yourself about yourself, then you have more power over those stories than you ever realized. Not to fabricate fiction, but to choose which truths to honor, which meanings to emphasize, which versions of your past will serve your future. Every memory is an act of creation. Every remembering is an act of choice. And every moment of recognition that your past is fluid is an opportunity to consciously participate in writing the story of who you are. You are not the prisoner of your memories. You are their co-author. The brain can't distinguish between reality and imagination. Close your eyes and picture a lemon. Bright yellow waxy skin, that sharp citrus scent. Now imagine biting into it. Feel the juice hit your tongue, that immediate pucker, saliva flooding your mouth. Your body just responded to something that doesn't exist. Your brain treated an imagined lemon as if it were real, triggering physical reactions to a mental image. This isn't a quirk of the mind. It's a fundamental feature. Your brain processes imagined experiences using the same neural networks that handle real ones. When you visualize running, your motor cortex activates. When you imagine a conversation, your language centers light up. When you picture a sunset, your visual cortex engages as if light were actually hitting your retinas. Athletes have known this for decades. Mental rehearsal improves physical performance because the brain doesn't distinguish between practicing a movement and imagining it. Surgeons who mentally rehearse procedures before operating make fewer mistakes. Musicians who visualize performances play with greater precision. The imagination is not separate from reality. It's a parallel processing system that your brain treats as real. This has profound implications. Every worry you rehearse in your mind, every anxious scenario you play out, every catastrophic possibility you imagine is being processed as if it were happening. Your nervous system responds to imagined threats with the same stress hormones it would release for actual danger. You can literally make yourself sick with thoughts. But this same mechanism that can trap you in cycles of anxiety can also liberate you from them. If your brain treats imagination as reality, then you can use imagination to reprogram your responses. Visualizing success doesn't just motivate you, it prepares your neural pathways for actual success. Imagining healing doesn't just inspire hope, it may activate actual healing processes. Neuroscientist Álvaro Pascual León had people practice piano exercises either physically or mentally. Brain scans showed that both groups developed similar changes in their motor cortex. The people who only imagined playing piano had created neural pathways almost identical to those who actually played. The mind had built the infrastructure for a skill that existed only in imagination. This blurring of real and imagined extends beyond practice. Your emotional responses, your stress levels, your confidence, your fears, are all shaped by scenarios that exist only in your head. You react to conversations that never happened, worry about events that may never occur, and feel genuine emotions about completely fictional situations. The implications are staggering. If your brain can't tell the difference between what you experience and what you imagine, then you have access to unlimited experience. You can rehearse courage until you feel brave. You can practice compassion until it becomes natural. You can visualize healing until your body begins to heal. You can imagine different versions of yourself until you become them. But this power comes with responsibility. If imagination shapes reality, then what you choose to imagine matters deeply. The stories you tell yourself, the scenarios you rehearse, the possibilities you entertain are not neutral mental activities. They are acts of creation, shaping the neural pathways that will determine your future responses. Your imagination is not an escape from reality. It's a workshop where reality is built. Every time you visualize an outcome, you make it slightly more likely. Every time you rehearse a response, you strengthen the neural pathways that will activate in similar situations. Every time you imagine yourself differently, you take a step toward becoming that different version of yourself. This is why hope is not naive optimism. It's practical neuroscience. When you imagine positive outcomes, you're not just lifting your spirits. You're rewiring your brain to recognize and create opportunities for those outcomes. When you visualize yourself handling challenges with grace, you're building the neural infrastructure that will help you actually do so. The boundary between what is and what could be is not as solid as it appears. In the theater of your mind, every performance changes the performer. Every imagined experience leaves real traces. Every visualization is a form of practice for a reality that may be closer than you think. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what you remember and what you imagine, between what happens to you and what you make happen in your mind. This isn't a limitation. It's the source of your greatest power. Because if imagination is indistinguishable from experience, then you have access to any experience you can imagine. Part 8. The Depths of Reality. In the strange landscape of consciousness, where the familiar dissolves into mystery, We find ourselves suspended between what we think we know and what we can never fully grasp. The journey through scientific understanding has brought us to a threshold where the very foundations of existence begin to shimmer with uncertainty, like heat waves rising from summer pavement, distorting everything we thought was solid. Consider the peculiar nature of memory, that most intimate aspect of your existence. You trust your memories to define who you are, yet neuroscience reveals a disturbing truth. Every time you recall something, you rewrite it. Your brain doesn't simply retrieve files like a computer accessing stored data. Instead, it reconstructs each memory from fragments, influenced by your current emotional state, recent experiences, and unconscious biases. The memory you cherish from childhood has been subtly altered every time you've revisited it, like a photograph that fades and changes color with each viewing. The person you remember being may be largely fictional, a character your mind has been unconsciously editing for years. This malleability of memory extends beyond personal recollection into the very fabric of identity. You exist as a story your brain tells itself, moment by moment, stitching together fragments of sensation, emotion, and thought into a coherent narrative of selfhood. But this narrative is constantly shifting, adapting, revising itself. The you that exists right now is subtly different from the you that existed at the beginning of this sentence. Your consciousness flows like a river that never contains the same water twice, yet maintains the illusion of continuity. The mystery deepens when we examine the nature of perception itself. Your brain doesn't passively receive reality, it actively constructs it. The colors you see don't exist in the external world. They're interpretations your brain assigns to different wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation. The solid objects you touch are mostly empty space, held together by forces you can't directly perceive. Your reality is a carefully crafted user interface, designed not for truth, but for survival. It's as if you're living inside a sophisticated virtual reality system that's so convincing you've forgotten you're wearing the headset. This constructed nature of experience extends to time itself. The present moment you think you're experiencing has already passed by the time your brain finishes processing it. You live in a constant state of delay, experiencing reality roughly 80 milliseconds after it occurs. Your brain smooths over this lag, creating the illusion of immediate experience. But you're always slightly behind the actual flow of events. You're not living in the present, you're living in the immediate past, in a carefully edited version of reality that your brain presents to maintain the fiction of coherent experience. Even your sense of free will, that most fundamental feeling of being in control of your choices, may be an elaborate illusion. Neuroscientific experiments show that your brain begins preparing for actions before you become consciously aware of deciding to act. The feeling of choice may be nothing more than a post hoc narrative your brain constructs to maintain the illusion of agency. You may be less the author of your actions and more their narrator, telling yourself a story about decisions that have already been made by unconscious processes. The quantum realm reveals even stranger truths about the nature of existence. At the smallest scales, reality refuses to behave according to common sense. Particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed, at which point they seem to choose a single reality. This suggests that observation itself plays a fundamental role in determining what exists. The universe may not be a fixed stage upon which consciousness observes, but rather a collaborative creation between mind and matter, observer and observed. This participatory nature of reality extends to the cosmic scale. The universe appears to be fine-tuned for consciousness with remarkable precision. If the fundamental constants of physics were even slightly different, stars couldn't form, atoms couldn't exist, and life would be impossible. This fine-tuning is so precise that it suggests either incredible luck or intentional design. Some theories propose that we exist in one of countless parallel universes, the only ones capable of supporting observers like ourselves. Others suggest that consciousness itself may play a role in determining the physical constants of reality. The boundary between observer and observed becomes even more blurred when we consider the possibility that we might be living in a simulation. The exponential growth of computing power and our increasing ability to create realistic virtual worlds raises the question: if advanced civilizations can create simulated realities indistinguishable from the real thing, how would we know if we're living in one? The strange behavior of quantum mechanics, with its pixel-like smallest units of space and time, begins to resemble the underlying code of a vast computer program, rather than the smooth continuum we once imagined. Yet even if we are living in a simulation, the experience remains meaningful. Love still feels real, beauty still moves us, and consciousness still grapples with existence. The search for truth continues, whether we're made of atoms or algorithms. The mystery of why there is something rather than nothing persists, regardless of what that something ultimately consists of. Perhaps the most profound realization is that consciousness itself remains utterly mysterious. Despite all our advances in neuroscience, we still have no scientific explanation for why there is subjective experience at all. We can map every neuron, trace every chemical signal, and predict every behavior, but the question of why it feels like something to be conscious remains unanswered. This hard problem of consciousness suggests that there may be aspects of reality that lie forever beyond the reach of scientific inquiry. The more we learn about the universe, the more we realize how much we don't know. Dark matter and dark energy make up 95% of existence, yet we have no idea what they are. Time may not flow the way we experience it. Space may not be fundamental, but emergent. Causality may not always run from past to future. The solid, predictable reality we think we inhabit may be nothing more than a useful fiction our minds create to navigate an underlying chaos of quantum uncertainty. In this landscape of mystery, wonder becomes not just an emotional response, but an intellectual necessity. The universe reveals itself to be far stranger, more beautiful, and more mysterious than we ever imagined. We exist as conscious observers in a reality that defies comprehension, witnesses to a cosmic story whose plot we can barely follow and whose meaning remains tantalizingly out of reach. Yet, in acknowledging our ignorance, we find a different kind of wisdom. The recognition that reality is far more mysterious than we thought doesn't diminish our place in it. It enlarges it. We are not insignificant specks in a mechanical universe, but conscious participants in an ongoing mystery of existence. Every moment of awareness, every flash of understanding, every experience of beauty or love represents the universe becoming conscious of itself through us. The journey through these scientific mysteries reveals that the most important truths may not be facts we can measure or theories we can prove, but the profound recognition that existence itself is miraculous. The Cosmic Mirror. Part 9. The vastness of space and time stretches beyond our comprehension. Yet within this infinite expanse, we find ourselves confronting questions that pierce to the very core of existence. We have journeyed through the labyrinth of scientific understanding, exploring the strange territories where physics meets philosophy, where the measurable meets the mysterious. Now, as we venture deeper into these cosmic puzzles, we encounter phenomena that challenge not just our knowledge, but our very capacity to know. Consider for a moment the peculiar nature of our reality. You wake each morning believing in the solidity of your world, trusting that the ground beneath your feet will hold, that the laws of physics will remain constant, that your consciousness will persist from one moment to the next. Yet science whispers of stranger truths. The ground you trust is mostly empty space, held together by forces we barely comprehend. The laws of physics may themselves be contingent, perhaps different in other universes or other epochs. And consciousness, that most intimate aspect of your being, remains utterly mysterious to the very minds that experience it. This is where we find ourselves in our exploration of the cosmic mystery. We are not merely observers peering into the darkness, seeking answers to abstract questions. We are participants in the very phenomena we seek to understand. Our consciousness is part of the puzzle it attempts to solve. Our observations shape the reality we observe. We are the universe becoming aware of itself, yet that awareness brings with it a profound recognition of how little we truly understand. The theories we have explored, From quantum mechanics to relativity, from evolution to consciousness studies, are not merely intellectual constructs. They are windows into the deeper nature of reality, revealing layer upon layer of complexity and mystery. Each answer we uncover seems to spawn a dozen new questions. Each breakthrough illuminates vast territories of ignorance we never knew existed. This is not a failure of science, but perhaps its greatest triumph. The more we learn, the more we realize how much more there is to learn. Take quantum mechanics, for instance. Here we find a domain where the very act of observation changes what we observe, where particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until forced to choose, where distant events can influence each other instantaneously across the void of space. These are not just curious phenomena to be catalogued and filed away. They suggest that reality itself is far more fluid, far more participatory than our everyday experience would suggest. The universe, it seems, is not a machine running according to predetermined laws, but something more like a conversation between mind and matter, observer and observed. Or consider the implications of evolution. We are not separate from the natural world, observing it from some privileged position outside of it. We are evolution becoming conscious of itself. Every thought you think, every question you ask, every moment of wonder you experience is evolution in action. The same forces that shaped the first cells, that guided the development of eyes and brains and hands, are still at work in the laboratory, in the observatory, in the quiet moments when a scientist suddenly understands something that was hidden before. This realization transforms our relationship with mystery. We are not struggling against ignorance as if it were an enemy to be conquered. We are dancing with the unknown, recognizing that mystery is not an obstacle to understanding, but its very source. Every answer we find is a gift from the mysterious, and each gift opens new channels through which wonder can flow. The cosmos presents us with paradoxes that seem to demand a different kind of thinking. How can the universe be both deterministic and random? How can consciousness arise from unconscious matter? How can infinity be actual rather than merely conceptual? These questions press against the boundaries of logic itself, suggesting that reality may be more than our rational minds can fully grasp. Yet this is not cause for despair, but for a deeper kind of humility and wonder. We are finite beings attempting to understand an infinite cosmos. We are temporary patterns of matter and energy trying to comprehend eternal truths. The very fact that we can ask these questions, that we can sense the mystery even when we cannot solve it, is itself miraculous. Perhaps this is where science and spirituality converge, not in their answers, but in their deepest questions. Both traditions recognize that reality extends far beyond what can be easily measured or explained. Both acknowledge that the universe is stranger and more wonderful than common sense suggests. Both invite us into a relationship with mystery that is characterized not by fear, but by reverence. As we contemplate these cosmic puzzles, we begin to understand that we are not separate from what we study. The same atoms that forge stars course through our veins. The same forces that govern galaxies operate within our cells. The same mathematical principles that describe the dance of planets also describe the firing of neurons in our brains. We are not alien observers in a foreign universe. We are the universe observing itself, questioning itself, marveling at itself. This recognition changes everything. It means that when we study consciousness, we are consciousness studying itself. When we investigate the nature of time, we are temporal beings exploring temporality. When we probe the mysteries of quantum mechanics, we are quantum systems investigating quantum behavior. The observer and the observed are intimately connected, perhaps ultimately inseparable. In this light, the great questions of science become deeply personal. The nature of consciousness is not just an abstract problem, but the mystery of your own being. The arrow of time is not just a theoretical construct, but the very fabric of your experience. The possibility of multiple universes is not just a mathematical curiosity, but a question about the ultimate context of your existence. The theories we explore offer us more than explanations. They offer us new ways of being in the world. Quantum mechanics suggests that reality is more fluid and participatory than we imagined. Relativity reveals that space and time are woven together in ways that defy intuition. Evolution shows us that we are part of an ongoing creative process that has been unfolding for billions of years. Each of these insights has the power to transform not just how we think, but how we live. Yet even as we push the boundaries of knowledge ever further, the mystery deepens rather than diminishes. The more precisely we measure the position of a particle, the less we can know about its momentum. The more completely we map the neural correlates of consciousness, the more puzzling consciousness itself becomes. The more we learn about the cosmos, the more we realize how little of it we can actually observe and understand. This is the beautiful paradox of scientific inquiry. It simultaneously illuminates and humbles, reveals and conceals, answers and questions. It shows us that we live in a universe that is far stranger and more wonderful than our ancestors could have imagined, while also revealing that we have barely begun to fathom its depths. The journey into these cosmic mysteries is not just an intellectual adventure. It is a transformation of consciousness itself. To really grapple with quantum mechanics is to have your sense of reality shaken. To contemplate the implications of relativity is to experience time and space in new ways. To understand evolution is to see yourself as part of a cosmic story that began with the first spark of life and continues in every moment of your existence. As we stand at the edge of the known, peering into the vast territories of the unknown, we are invited into a relationship with mystery that is characterized by wonder rather than anxiety, by curiosity rather than fear. The universe is not withholding its secrets to frustrate us. It is revealing them gradually, allowing us to grow into the capacity to receive ever deeper truths. This process of discovery is itself part of the cosmic story. We are not separate from the universe trying to understand it from the outside. We are the universe developing the capacity to understand itself from within. Every moment of scientific insight is a moment when the cosmos becomes more conscious of its own nature. Every question we ask is the universe questioning itself. Every answer we find is the universe discovering itself. In this grand process of cosmic self-discovery, mystery is not the enemy of knowledge, but its deepest source. The questions that science cannot yet answer are not failures, but invitations. They invite us to expand our methods of inquiry, to develop new ways of thinking, to open ourselves to possibilities we have not yet imagined. The cosmic mystery is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be lived. It surrounds us, permeates us, and ultimately includes us. We are not outside observers trying to peer into a foreign cosmos. We are the cosmos awakening to itself, questioning itself, marveling at itself through billions of years of evolution and countless moments of wonder. And in this awakening, this questioning, this marveling, we find not just knowledge, but transformation. We discover that the universe is not just something we study, but something we participate in. Not just something we observe, but something we help to create through the very act of observation. We are both the mystery and the ones who wonder at the mystery, both the question and the questioner, both the cosmos and the consciousness through which the cosmos knows itself. This is perhaps the deepest truth that science reveals, that we are not separate from what we seek to understand. We are integral to the very reality we investigate. And in recognizing this, we find ourselves not at the end of inquiry, but at its true beginning, where every answer opens new territories of wonder, and every moment of understanding reveals new depths of mystery waiting to be explored. The holographic principle suggests that everything we experience might be a projection from a higher dimensional surface. Picture a credit card hologram that appears three-dimensional but is actually encoded on a flat surface. What if our entire universe works the same way, with all information about our reality stored on a distant two-dimensional boundary that we can never directly observe? This idea emerged from studying black holes. When information falls into a black hole, it doesn't disappear inside as you might expect. Instead, it gets encoded on the black hole's surface, on its event horizon. This discovery led physicists to wonder if the same principle applies to the entire universe. What if everything we see, touch, and experience is just a holographic projection from the edge of cosmic space? The mathematics supports this possibility. The equations of physics work just as well if the universe is fundamentally two-dimensional, with our three-dimensional experience being an emergent property. Like a video game rendering a complex world from simple code, reality might be far simpler than it appears. This would mean that space itself isn't fundamental, but rather an illusion created by deeper information processing. But this raises profound questions about the nature of existence. If we are living in a hologram, what lies beyond the projection? Are we shadows on a cosmic wall, forever unable to perceive the true reality that creates us? The holographic principle doesn't just challenge our understanding of physics, it challenges our understanding of what it means to be real. Yet perhaps this shouldn't be disturbing. After all, a hologram still contains all the information of the original. Every relationship, every pattern, every structure would still be preserved. The love you feel, the thoughts you think, the beauty you perceive would be no less meaningful for being holographic. In fact, it might be more remarkable that such richness could emerge from such elegant simplicity. Some physicists believe that consciousness itself might be a holographic phenomenon, arising from information processing at the boundary of our cosmic horizon. This would mean that awareness isn't produced by the brain alone, but is a fundamental feature of how information organizes itself in the universe. Your thoughts might literally extend to the edge of space, encoded in the fabric of reality itself. The holographic principle also offers hope for understanding quantum gravity, the elusive theory that would unite quantum mechanics with general relativity. If space and time are holographic, then the contradictions between these theories might resolve naturally. The quantum world and the relativistic world would be different projections of the same underlying reality. String theory embraces the holographic principle, suggesting that the fundamental strings of matter exist in higher dimensions while projecting our familiar reality. This could explain why extra dimensions remain hidden. They're not separate spaces, but different aspects of the holographic encoding. Like looking at a hologram from different angles reveals different images, our universe might be one view of a richer dimensional structure. But the most profound implication is what this means for the boundaries of knowledge. If we are holographic beings living in a holographic universe, can we ever truly understand our own nature? Or are we like characters in a book trying to comprehend the paper they're printed on? Perhaps the quest for understanding is itself part of the holographic pattern, consciousness exploring its own projection. The holographic principle reminds us that reality is far stranger than common sense suggests. The solid world around you, the space between atoms, even the passage of time might all be elaborate illusions created by information dancing on a cosmic screen. Yet this doesn't diminish the wonder of existence. It amplifies it. To think that all of human experience, all of art and science and love, could emerge from such elegant mathematical beauty is perhaps the most miraculous possibility of all. Whether the universe is truly holographic remains an open question. But the very fact that such ideas can be seriously considered shows how far our understanding has evolved. We've moved from thinking reality is made of solid stuff to suspecting it might be made of information itself. And in that transformation, we've discovered that the deepest truths about existence might be hidden not in what we can touch, but in what we can imagine. The observer effect in quantum mechanics suggests that the act of measurement fundamentally changes what is being measured. But this goes beyond simple disturbance, like a thermometer affecting temperature. In quantum systems, particles don't seem to have definite properties until they are observed. They exist in a state of superposition, being in multiple states simultaneously, until measurement forces them to choose. This creates a paradox that has puzzled physicists for nearly a century. How can the universe exist in an undetermined state? What constitutes an observation? Does consciousness play a role in collapsing the wave function, or is any interaction sufficient? Some interpretations suggest that reality branches with every measurement, creating parallel universes for each possible outcome. Others propose that the wave function never actually collapses, remaining in superposition even after measurement. The implications extend far beyond physics. If observation changes reality at the quantum level, what does this mean for the nature of knowledge itself? Every time we try to understand something, we might be changing it in the process. This could apply not just to particles, but to complex systems, to consciousness, even to the universe as a whole. Perhaps the very act of asking questions about reality helps determine what reality becomes. Yet there's something deeply satisfying about this mystery. It suggests that consciousness isn't separate from the physical world, but intimately connected to it. We're not just passive observers of reality. We're participants in its creation. Every moment of awareness, every act of measurement, every conscious observation might be helping to write the story of what exists. And as you drift toward sleep, consider this. In the quantum realm, the boundary between observer and observed dissolves. Perhaps in dreams, when conscious control relaxes, we glimpse something closer to the fluid, uncertain nature of quantum reality. In sleep, thoughts arise and dissolve without fixed form, much like quantum superpositions before measurement. Maybe the strange logic of dreams reflects the deeper logic of existence itself. The observer effect reminds us that we are not separate from the mysteries we seek to understand. We are part of the quantum fabric, woven into the very phenomena we study. And in that participation, in that intimate connection between mind and matter, we find not answers but deeper questions. As we reach the final moments of our journey through the deepest mysteries of science, we find ourselves standing at the edge of the known, peering into an infinite abyss of questions that stretch far beyond our current understanding. The theories we've explored tonight form a vast tapestry of human curiosity, each thread woven from centuries of wonder, observation, and the relentless drive to comprehend our place in this extraordinary cosmos. From the quantum realm where particles dance in superposition to the cosmic scales where dark energy tears space itself apart, we've witnessed how reality operates on principles that challenge every assumption we hold dear. We've seen how consciousness might emerge from quantum processes, how time itself could be an illusion, and how the universe might be computing its own existence through mechanisms we've barely begun to fathom. Perhaps the most profound realization emerging from our exploration is that science doesn't just describe reality. It reveals how deeply interconnected everything truly is. The same quantum mechanics that governs electrons in your brain also shapes the behavior of distant galaxies. The carbon in your body was forged in the nuclear furnaces of dying stars. The observer effect that collapses wave functions in laboratories might be the very mechanism by which consciousness participates in creating the reality it perceives. We've discovered that the boundaries we once thought were solid, between observer and observed, between mind and matter, between self and cosmos, are far more fluid than we ever imagined. The measurement problem in quantum mechanics suggests that reality might not exist in a definite state until consciousness looks. The holographic principle hints that everything we experience might be a projection from a more fundamental dimension. The simulation hypothesis raises the possibility that our entire existence might be computation running on some vast cosmic computer. These aren't just abstract concepts confined to academic papers. They're invitations to reconsider the most basic questions about existence. What does it mean to be conscious? What is the nature of time? How do we define reality itself? Each scientific theory we've encountered tonight carries profound implications for how we understand ourselves and our relationship to the universe. The mystery of consciousness remains perhaps the most intimate and yet most elusive. We've seen how the hard problem of consciousness challenges our materialist assumptions, how quantum theories of mind suggest awareness might be fundamental to reality, and how the measurement problem implies that observation itself might be creative rather than passive. You are not just a collection of atoms following physical laws. You are a focal point where the universe becomes aware of itself. The nature of time, too, defies our everyday experience. We've explored how quantum mechanics suggests time might not flow uniformly, how relativity shows it can stretch and bend, and how some theories propose it might not even be fundamental, but rather an emergent property of more basic processes. The arrow of time paradox reminds us that the direction we experience, from past to future, remains unexplained by the fundamental laws of physics. Space itself, that seemingly empty void between objects, reveals itself to be anything but empty. Quantum field theory shows us that the vacuum seethes with virtual particles and energy fluctuations. Dark energy, comprising most of the universe, pushes space apart in ways we don't understand. Extra dimensions might be curled up at every point, invisible to our perception yet essential to the fabric of reality. The multiverse theories we've encountered suggest that our universe might be just one of countless others, each with different laws, different possibilities, different versions of ourselves. If this is true, then every choice you make, every path you take, branches into infinite alternative realities where other versions of you explore different possibilities. The you reading these words right now might be just one thread in an infinite tapestry of existence. Evolution and the origin of life remind us that consciousness itself might be the universe's way of understanding itself. From the first self-replicating molecules to the emergence of awareness, we see a progression toward greater complexity and self-reflection. We are not separate from nature. We are nature becoming conscious of itself. The technological singularity and artificial intelligence raise questions about the future of consciousness. If we can create minds that think and feel, what does that say about the nature of our own awareness? Are we approaching a moment when consciousness itself transcends its biological origins? Climate change and the Anthropocene remind us that we are not passive observers, but active participants in shaping the planet's future. Our consciousness has become a geological force, capable of altering the very conditions that gave rise to us. The question becomes, how will we use this unprecedented power? As we contemplate these mysteries, we begin to see patterns emerging. Consciousness and cosmos seem to be engaged in a dance of mutual creation. The observer effect suggests that consciousness shapes reality through the act of observation. The anthropic principle hints that the universe's laws might be fine-tuned for the emergence of observers. The participatory universe idea proposes that reality and awareness co-evolve together. This brings us to perhaps the deepest insight of all. You are not an insignificant speck in an indifferent universe. You are an integral part of how the universe knows itself. Your consciousness is not an accident, but a culmination, the point where billions of years of cosmic evolution flower into self-awareness. Every thought you think, every question you ask, every moment of wonder you experience is the universe looking at itself through your eyes. The scientific theories we've explored tonight don't diminish the mystery of existence. They deepen it. They show us that reality is far stranger, far more beautiful, and far more interconnected than our ancestors could have imagined. They reveal that we live in a universe where consciousness and cosmos are not separate but intimately entangled, where the act of questioning reality might be reality's way of questioning itself. We stand at a unique moment in cosmic history. For the first time, matter has organized itself into forms complex enough to contemplate their own existence. For the first time, the universe has developed eyes to see itself, minds to comprehend its own vastness, and hearts to feel wonder at its own beauty. We are the universe becoming self-aware. The theories we've explored tonight, from quantum mechanics to consciousness, from relativity to evolution, from artificial intelligence to the ultimate fate of the cosmos, all point toward the same profound truth. Reality is not a collection of separate objects, but a unified field of awareness and possibility. We are not isolated beings struggling against an indifferent cosmos, but expressions of the cosmos itself, temporary arrangements of atoms and energy through which the universe experiences itself subjectively. This understanding doesn't solve all mysteries. It deepens them. It doesn't provide final answers. It opens new questions. But it does offer something precious, a sense of connection, purpose, and wonder that can transform how we live our lives. As you drift toward sleep tonight, Remember that the same quantum fields that gave birth to stars are flowing through your body. The same forces that shape galaxies are shaping your thoughts. The same consciousness that ponders the deepest mysteries of existence is the consciousness reading these words right now. You are not just in the universe, you are the universe becoming conscious of itself. Every breath you take is the cosmos breathing. Every thought you think is reality thinking about itself. Every moment of love, wonder, or compassion you experience is the universe discovering its own capacity for these profound states. The scientific theories we've explored tonight remind us that mystery is not the enemy of understanding, but its deepest expression. Each answer we discover reveals new questions. Each theory opens new vistas of possibility. The more we learn about reality, the more we realize how much we don't yet know, and how beautiful that unknowing can be. In this vast, mysterious, interconnected cosmos, consciousness emerges not as an accident, but as an inevitability, not as an isolated phenomenon, but as the universe's way of experiencing itself from within. You are that experience. You are that awareness. You are the cosmos awakening to itself. And perhaps that's the most profound scientific theory of all, that consciousness and cosmos are not two but one, not separate but unified, not observer and observed, but a single, magnificent, ever-evolving dance of awareness exploring itself through infinite forms, infinite possibilities, infinite wonder. Sleep well, knowing that you are both the questioner and the answer, both the observer and the observed, both a temporary form and an eternal essence. You are the universe dreaming of itself, and in your dreams tonight, perhaps the cosmos will glimpse new possibilities, new mysteries, new ways of understanding the profound miracle of existence itself. The journey through scientific mysteries never ends. It only deepens, like consciousness itself, like the universe itself, like the eternal dance between knowing and unknowing that defines the very essence of what it means to be aware, to be alive, to be part of this extraordinary cosmic story still unfolding.